Now for your final group projects for the class, I've integrated something into your rubric called the INtopFORM criteria. Now INtopFORM is the university's way to make sure students are becoming more information fluent. And that you as students are able to exhibit 6 central abilities that should be applicable to any discipline here at ETSU, and those are questioning, seeking, evaluating, using, communicating, and recognizing. So I'll go through those real quick, and then we'll look at the rubric and see how they match up. Now questioning, here we really want you as students to start asking questions that are going to facilitate the solution of problems. So we can do this through using discussion boards, which are heavily used in this class, brainstorming, questioning, asking, inquiring. Just how are you forming questions to kind of reach that end solution? Now the next part to the INtopFORM criteria is seeking. So this is how you as students go out and find that information to define the questions that you posed in the first level in questioning. So you can do this through showing us that you have credible sources, your annotated bibliographies, if you put things in timelines. Really, how are you going out and investigating or discovering the information that you need for the final project or for the question that you define. So we'll move into evaluating next. And this is where we see how students are using critical thinking skills in evaluating their sources. So are you identifying sources of bias? Can you determine when your sources may have bias to them or when they are truly bias-free? And also, how are you determining if your sources are valid and reliable, and how do you go through making sure that those sources are genuine, really good sources to use? So are you inspecting them? Are you really scrutinizing them? Are you trying to evaluate and really trying to understand them? Using is step 4, and this is where we're taking all this information, kind of synthesizing it, running through the process, and how we're using it to accomplish our ultimate goal, which is the question that we defined in step 1. So are we writing some type of policy proposal? Are we doing a lit review? How are you really synthesizing this information to understand it for yourself? Our next step, communicating. Basically what it sounds like. How are we communicating that information effectively? How are we making sure the other party is understanding that information? So are we doing it through papers or presentations, which you'll be doing in this class? Are we tailoring the communication to the appropriate audience? Are we talking above them? Are we talking at their level? Are we talking below their level? Are we using visuals? How are we getting that information out, and how are we doing that in a more effective manner? Recognizing is the last step of the INtopFORM criteria. So how are we, giving credit essentially where credit is due? How are we avoiding plagiarism? How are we citing within our work, paraphrasing? How are we doing those in-text citations? And how are we giving credit and honor to those whose information that we're using in our paper and not necessarily passing it off as our own. And all those together create the INtopFORM criteria. So it's really just how are you working through a question that's posed, and how are you going about seeking your information. So let me bring our class over here to this screen, and we can kind of look and see how these are tied together. So let's go down to your group planning project. And this is applicable in your worksheets too, which are helping to build your project overall. You're still going to have to go through and find the sources of this information, but for purposes of this, let's look through and look at your rubric for your strategic planning assignment. So you can see here the components of your strategic planning assignment. And what I'm going to be doing is going through and looking, are you clearly articulating? Are you giving credit where credit is due? How have you researched your SWOT analysis? Have you met these different criteria? What does your analysis look like of your strengths and weaknesses, your opportunities and threats? Are your goals well defined? Where are you getting your information? How are you getting baseline data? How do you know what's good? What kind of questions are you posing, and how are you using supporting evidence to support your position? And then, of course, you know, that last step, the recognizing on your reference page and throughout your paper too, how are you giving credit where credit is due? So that's just a simple and very short and quick overview of INtopFORM, but wanted to be able to give you a little bit more background into how I'm going to be grading your presentations and why I'm going to be grading them the way that I do. And again, just going back to the whole reason for INtopFORM, INtopFORM is to help you understand and to help teach to you what is information fluency and what is that kind of critical thinking skill that we want you to leave the university with. We want you to leave the university with this ability to really seek and evaluate these really diverse sources of information when we have some difficult questions that are posed to us that can be, you know, very challenging, and how are we addressing them, and how are we kind of going about being innovative and creative in the way we're solving these questions. And how are we really working to pursue those new lines of inquiry in more real-world contextual situations. If you have any questions, please let me know. For some of you, this may be new. For some of you, this may be a review. Again, I have incorporated the INtopFORM criteria into your final project grades. So I will be kind of looking to see how you're going through doing this information seeking. And again, if you have any questions, please just let me know.